Hi, I'm Lisa Hayden with Channel 6 Central Kentucky TV, community focus on Washington County. We are happy to have with us today two veterans since we are celebrating Veterans Day, which was yesterday, and two veterans of the Iraqi War. Welcome and thank you for your service. I was, glad to be able to attend the ceremony at Washington County High School. And, there's a lot of people who have served in our armed forces, that we don't even know, and living right here in Washington County. And so I was, fortunate to be able to see you guys and thought they need to be on Channel 6. And because we always do, programs about our veterans and different wars. And so I'm just glad you all could be here with us today. So now, Philip, I know you are from Washington County, I think, originally.
That's correct.
But did you all left here and moved?
To Frankfort. I grew up in Frankfort.
Okay.
Yes.
Were you born here?
I was born here. Yes.
Okay. And then you all left here and went to Frankfort.
That's correct.
Your parents, Norma and Virgil, did. Your mother was the extension agent, and wasn't she?
No, she wasn't an extension agent, but she did extensive work with 4-H.
Okay. Okay. And now you were born on a farm here. And now, are you all back on the same? No,
Mom and Dad bought that farm in '86, I think it is. It's the old Alec Barber place.
Okay.
But yeah, I had never lived on that farm before they moved down here.
So you've made a career of the service, is that right?
I did. I have retired. I retired from the Air National Guard in actually 2007, but that was my primary career most of my life. And then in 2001, I was hired as a pilot by UPS.
Okay, and so you went into the Air National Guard and flew planes?
Yes.
And then, of course, went to work for UPS flying planes. So somewhere in there, you went to, were you in Iraq? Is part of being in the Air National Guard?
Yes. We had done extensive, as the focus of the U.S. military switched more to what we call Southwest Asia area of operations. After the original Gulf War, Desert Storm, which I was not activated for. I was in the Guard then, but we were not activated. But we supported what's called Southern Watch, where we enforced the no-fly zone against the Saddam Hussein regime in Iraq. So I had extensive experience flying in that theater over several years. And then in early 2003, before the invasion of Iraq, we had a little bit of a buildup. We were actually, when the decision was made to go into Iraq, we and several other all Guard and Reserve C-130 units were in a base in Saudi Arabia preparing for this. So when it actually started, we were already in country, and right after that we began flying different types of mission into Iraq and into the whole area out of Saudi Arabia at that time. But we were actually there when it kicked off and were there throughout 2003.
So now, Philip, when you were in Saudi Arabia, you had been activated.
Yes.
At that point, because of the conflict going on.
That's correct.
And but you weren't actually involved in active combat until until the Iraqi war began then, and still, so you were flying in.
That's correct. I'd actually spent all of 2002 on active duty. I was working at UPS at the time, but they were looking for crews to activate because we were doing homeland defense. And basically in preparation for any other September 11th type attack on the U.S., they had to have what they called the Quick Response Force throughout the country. And I volunteered to come on for a year to do that. So I served 2002 on active duty, had just gone back to work, had just gotten requalified in my airplane at UPS when I received a call saying, pack your bags, you're going back.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, didn't have any choice in that matter, huh?
No, it was
No
involuntary activation.
So, and then how long were you there? A year there?
Just under a year, probably like March to September of 2003.
So you, so what was your job on these, you were flying these planes that were doing what?
Okay, I actually had a couple of jobs. I worked in mission planning a bit, and then I also flew. But when we flew, we, not everybody, but the time that we were there, I never spent one night in Iraq, but I spent almost every day in Iraq. We flew in and out every day, but the type of mission we did were not only supplies and troops, but we had actually hauled captured prisoners out. We occasionally hauled Iraqis from one place to the other. And then, unfortunately, we had to haul out human remains, what we called HR, people that had perished in battle. And that required a very ceremonious type of a mission. But the main thing that I did that I thought made the biggest difference was medical evacuation, medevac we call it, where we would go in and bring patients out to either a hospital in Kuwait or where they could get picked up in Kuwait and taken to Germany for the more extensive injuries.
So those were scary operations. You were flying in and
Yes.
in the war zone and landing and under attack, I suppose.
That is true, yes.
So I guess you read about war, you watch it on TV, and but it's you when you actually talk to veterans, it's pretty daggone. It's just pretty. It's become so real, and so I know it's difficult, I'm sure, to talk about some of the things sometimes, and so but it's you certainly have. I'm just glad you're back home, Philip.
Thank you.
I just wanted
Thank
to
you.
tell you, I'm glad you're back home.
I appreciate that.
And I'm glad that is over. And but it seems like we're in combat a lot, doesn't it? I wish there was. Wish we could find a way to just. I put a flag on. My husband was in the service too.
Yes.
And I put a little flag on his, and it with the flag, but it also said, and pray for peace, because I sure wish those prayers would come through where we could have total peace in our world. And so you must have had a love for flying growing up, or
I did.
always wanted to be a.
It took me a little longer to get into the game. I actually did everything through the military. I mean, I have a good job now only thanks to the experience I got in the military, so I can never say enough good things about what the service has done for me. Not only the good experiences, but the training as well. So.
And you had children when you were over there at that time. You and Erica in
2003, we had all three of our children had come along by that point, yes.
Yeah. So, and through your years in the Air National Guard, did you have to be away very much, or was it like 2 weeks in the summer or something?
No, I did a whole lot more than that, because I did a lot of those deployments. I had previously, before Iraq, I had done 4 deployments to the Middle Eastern theater. So I'd spent a lot of time over there.
Oh, wow.
As well as a lot of time in Europe during the Bosnian conflict, during their civil war, flying in and out of there. I'm sure Greg knows about that as well.
Oh, wow. Well, and you were in Iraq too, weren't you?
I was in Kuwait.
Oh, you were in Kuwait.
I was in Kuwait.
Close enough.
In support of Operation Iraqi Freedom.
Okay. Okay.
Our brigade, we ran all the base camps in Kuwait. There were 5 different base camps, so they broke our brigade down, and we ran each one of those base camps. Then we had 1 battalion that was in Iraq, in Al-Ramadi, and my nephew was in that unit. He was up there at the same time. And then we had 2 battalions that did convoy security from Kuwait. So they took every day, they would be taking logistical supplies from Kuwait all the way up almost to Turkey sometimes, and then they would escort. They would be the security for those.
Now, Craig, you made a career of the military as well, I think.
Correct. 26 years.
So, gosh, you all know a lot about the military. We could sit and talk all day. I'd like to, but so now, how old were you when you decided to make a career of the military?
I had wanted to be in the military my entire life.
As a kid?
Yeah, my dad was in the Navy during the Korean War time frame. I had uncles that were in World War II. My grandfather he served in the Army back in the 20s, and then my great-great-grandfather was in the Civil War, and he was part of Company K of the Kentucky Volunteer Cavalry out of Breathitt County.
Wow.
So
now, where did you...
I grew up in Franklin, Ohio, just a little bit north of Cincinnati.
Okay, but you had family in Kentucky.
Both my parents were born in Kentucky, and then they moved to Ohio. And
where in Kentucky?
My mom's from London, and my dad is from Breathitt County, which is on the eastern side, over in eastern Kentucky.
Do you still have family there?
If I do, I haven't seen them. I have my mom's cousin still lives in London that I keep in contact with him, but my dad's side, I'm sure there are some over there, but I haven't seen them since I was a little kid.
Well, you might have to make a visit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so so you, gosh, you have a real history then of military in your family.
My sister was active duty, my brother-in-law was active duty, and then my nephew was in the Guard with me. I was actually the commander of my nephew when he first came in, and then we deployed to Kuwait together. He was actually in Iraq, and I was down in Kuwait. So we served together overseas during the same operation.
Now, so how old were you then when you, 18, when you went into the service?
It was a couple days before my 18th birthday when I enlisted. I was still senior in high school. I got the drill with my National Guard unit. I was National Guard. I was, part-time, just a regular National Guard soldier for about 6 years. And then I could type, so they made me the unit clerk, and I became full-time and then did my 22 years active duty with them then.
And so did you, then you got sent to Kuwait?
Correct.
And prior to that, you hadn't had to serve in any type of war area or anything?
No. My brigade, we would send people out. So we did Kosovo, we did K4, 6 Alpha. I stayed back, I was the rear detachment commander, and that was for the people who didn't get mobilized, so I stayed back with those. And we sent about half of our squadron over to Kosovo for 6 months.
That was the Civil War
Correct.
in Kosovo,
Yes.
yes.
We did hurricane operations for Katrina and Rita. I'd spent a month down at Lake Charles, Louisiana in 2005. We did a lot of humanitarian service.
Oh, that's great. That's really, when you
then-
see, you know,
We also, right after 9/11, we had security detail for all the airports in Ohio. We had 7 different airports in Ohio that we had to maintain security for also. So, you know, everybody paid, you know, everybody did their part for that. Not everybody left to go over and do ground operations, but everybody, you know,
Oh, yeah.
everybody did their part.
well, there's all kinds of jobs to do, isn't there?
Yes, there are.
You know, and everyone contributes in one capacity or another.
Right.
So, but, you know, I still think that regardless of what your job is, you know, you're all in this together. And certainly, you know, we're thankful for everyone's service that are in the military. You know, you think about, you know, I mean, I know I've told this story before because, you know, in high school we did our part just sending letters to all the servicemen, you know, all of my hometown friends that were, you know, there and because, you know, you're away from home. You're not in your everyday routine and doing your regular job and you're taking care of or with your family, you know, and just being away and in whatever capacity is, you know, I think it's difficult. I think it's difficult for the ones at home.
That's true.
For the
That's
ones
true,
you're
too,
away
yeah.
from, you know, your wife and children and your wife and, you know, and I know you have two boys, I think.
Yeah, my youngest one, he was born in April, and then I left in January, and I was gone for a year, so I missed his first birthday party.
Yeah.
And then my oldest one, he was 7 at the time, so I missed, you know, football and baseball and all that stuff. So I mean, everybody does that. That's part of the reason you put the uniform on, is you make sacrifices.
Yeah.
And it's not just you; it's the family members also.
Yeah.
So everybody, you know, has a part in it.
Yeah, yeah. And so then you, after you in Kuwait now, were you involved in active stuff there, or did you? I mean, was there? I mean, well, the war was going on. Duh.
I was in Kuwait, so I was telling Phil earlier, the biggest thing I had to worry about is if Baskin Robbins was going to run out of chocolate ice cream that day. I was in a very safe location.
Oh, that's good. That's good to hear. Yeah. So I don't know. You know, you think you're safe, but you know that's not always the case. And you know, and after 9/11, I know that, you know, right here at home, you know, you don't always know if you're safe or not.
Correct.
And Philip, you mentioned that you were participating in some homeland security kinds of operations when.
Yeah, we were basically tasked to have a 2 C-130s stationed at different parts in the country where we would be available within 3 hours. We should be able to get a quick reaction action force anywhere in the country. And that was what we did for basically all of 2002.
And were trained in quick response then.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I sure pray we never have anything like that again.
Definitely.
You and me both.
Yeah. And so, and now, so both of you all were married. I mean, you married while you were in the service. So, so your wives knew what they were getting into, didn't they?
Yes.
And then, so I commend them. And then, Philip, you have 3 children. That Charlotte and Gwendolyn, and then
Wesley.
Wesley. And you know what's interesting about both of you being here today is that you both have involvement in our community theater here.
That's how we met.
That's true.
Is that how you met?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, and your children have been involved, and of course your wife. And Philip, have you performed in any of our?
No.
But you're behind the scenes
Yes.
in the theater.
My job precluded me from being able to make that kind of commitment.
So, and then with UPS,
Yes.
do they just like call you to come fly somewhere?
No, I have a schedule, but it's when I'm gone for a while. So.
Oh, okay. So, how long will you be gone at a? You mean they send you?
Oh, I know ahead of time where I'm going to go and how long it's going to be, but anywhere from occasionally I'll go out and come back the next day, but usually it's a week to 12 days, something like that.
With UPS? Goodness sakes.
They get their money's worth out of us.
Well, so that's how you all met, was through the theater. Of course, Erica's been very involved. And now Craig, you have two boys, no daughters.
Correct.
So your boys are both in the theater, and now their names are
Lance and Seth.
Yeah. And how old are they?
Lance is a senior and Seth is a 7th grader.
Okay.
So Lance just turned 18 and Seth is 12.
Okay. So then, and they're still participating.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, this weekend, West Side Story's on, and they're both in West Side Story.
Oh, great! And you're behind the scenes as well.
Yes.
A jack of all trades.
Try to
I
be.
mean, you've even directed the.
No, never directed.
Oh, I thought you did direct one show.
No, I do set construction, lighting, design, and sound. But I don't perform anymore.
Why not?
I can't remember lines.
Now, so you have been retired how long?
10 on 10 years.
Oh gosh. So, and Philip, you retired and then went back, and how long have you been retired now?
From the Guard for 12 years.
Okay. Okay. So, well, is there any particular story or situation you'd like to share with me today, or anything you would like to say about, your service or veterans, or tell me something.
Well, it was a privilege to serve, one that I don't take lightly and would definitely do again. And we need to honor those who have served before us. And I also come from a long line of military. Grandfather, World War I. My dad's 2 brothers were World War II. My mom has an uncle that was killed in World War II. And Dad served in both the Navy and the Army.
Oh, wow.
Cousin in Vietnam. 2 cousins were in Iraq with me. And so I just say we can't thank veterans enough. I hate to say that. I'm not directing that at myself, but I mean at the people who have really made sacrifices, especially the ultimate sacrifice. And one thing I would like to say is that Washington County High School's annual Veterans Day presentation is one of the best things I've ever attended. I've been doing it for probably as long as they've been doing it. And the students are the most respectful students during that, and they seem to get it. They seem to understand what's going on. I think some of that has to do with the fact that so many local people this, with the size of this county, have served, that everyone is somehow touched by military service
Yeah.
among that student body.
Yeah, yeah.
So.
Well, it is a wonderful program, and I'm right there with you, Philip. But I do have to ask now, how is it that your dad served in the Navy and the Army?
Well, he served in the Navy right after World War II, did his stint, came home, and then got drafted to be in the Army.
I didn't know they could draft
Yes, they
you after
can.
you've already served.
Yes, they can.
Oh, my goodness, he got drafted in the Army for what was going on then, at that time?
Just the Cold War. You know, after Korea, the Cold War.
Oh, my gosh. Well, whoever would have thought that would happen?
He had a brother-in-law that was the same way. Served in the Navy, got drafted into the Army later. It's not a unique thing.
I did not know that.
Mhm.
Well, you learn something all the time. Of course, you all start speaking that lingo that I don't know any of, and I'm always amazed when I'm with a few veterans, and I don't care what branch of service you're in or served in. And you start talking about things, and it's just like your old buddies and old friends, and you seem to know what each other are talking about, and I don't have a clue.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just pretty amazing, in my opinion. It's, like, it's another whole world that, I'm not familiar with, personally, I mean, although, I certainly had I've had lots of family members to serve too, and of course I'm like you, it's a I mean, we're so fortunate to have you who have served our country and kept us safe and kept us free, and so, I thank you for that, and I want you to say too, Craig, what it is you would like to share.
I'd really like to appreciate everybody who walked ahead of us, served during the same time and serving after us. It takes something special for you to serve, and appreciate everybody who has done that or is willing to do it in the future. And I know that there's a lot of seniors in high school right now who have already enlisted to go next year, and that's the next batch of military people coming up. So really appreciate those kids, they're young men that are going to dedicate,
And women.
and women, yes, and women that are going to serve and protect us and keep us safe. So it's not just people our age, it's everybody that's still doing it. So really appreciate that.
Yeah. Are your children,
No.
and they're not interested in
No.
this? Yeah. Well, I'm sure they've seen what a toll it can take, on a family, and so it's, it can be very, very difficult. And but I'm like you. I certainly appreciate those ones that have made that decision to. And the military can be pretty good in times of peace. I mean, fortunately, there are some benefits. I wish we had more for our veterans. I do think that's something we need to work on all the time. And I noticed your Wounded Warrior Project T-shirt, and because we do have a lot of our servicemen who have come back who, still need help and support once they get back, simply from an injury or, a mental, physical,
Emotional.
Absolutely, yes.
injury. And
Not all wounds are visible.
that's right. That's right. And we need to try to continue, we need to support those efforts. And, but, as I mentioned, I'm glad that, some people are, I remember with my husband, we bought our first house and on the GI Bill. low interest rates.
Right.
Those things help.
Yes, they
and,
do.
And education, getting your training or college education, and some of the skills you learned. But when Mike got out of the service, Fort Knox, they gave him a skill, a trade that he never actually used. Although I didn't realize until years later, I came across this certification in bricklaying, and I had no idea. And he got that right before he left the service. And but he always loved doing brick walls around our house, brick sidewalks, brick walls, brick this, brick that. And I never had a clue that. I thought, well, my goodness, that's why. Because he learned how to do that in the service, and he enjoyed it.
Best training in the world.
Yeah. So he really, and and some of those things are really good. Even if you don't use them as a trade, they're just a good skill to have.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, well, I want to thank you both for your service. I very much appreciate it. And I very much appreciate your being here today and telling us a little about that, and making sure that we stay safe in the United States, and bringing keeping us free and at peace. And we're going to continue to pray for peace.
Absolutely.
For the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thanks. Thanks, Lisa.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks.